Welcome to the video, guys. Every day we have a new story relating to what's going on in and around Dover that finally the media are picking up on thanks to the guys putting in work down there every day. And of course, Nigel Farage for Signal boosting it while claiming all the credit himself as per usual. Well, naturally, Diane Abbott has come out in defence of these so-called desperate migrants, including many pregnant women and all this utter codswallop that video evidence emphatically proves is not based in reality, which if I'm honest is common with a lot of the non-stop diarrhea that comes out of these Labour MPs' mouths. Now, in what is likely a shock to none of you, Diane Abbott completely contradicts herself during her deluded rant that as per usual is not in line with what the people of this country want, showing Labour to be once again unelectable tosspots because they all think like this, as recent history has shown us. But before we see what Diane had to say, remember the daily livestream has moved over to Twitch, so if you want to take part in them, the link will be down in the video description, along with the channel's other links where you can support what I do on other platforms. But back to Diane Abbott and the South Coast shit show she is trying to defend, which costs us a fortune, as do these Labour voters she wants to bring in, which the channel Rotten Politics covered earlier because a so-called asylum seeker stole 250 grand in benefits and uni funding. Diane Abbott will likely claim it was our fault he did that if she hasn't already. Anyway, we have this Labour list article from Diane Abbott herself that headlines, "British politicians must stop demonising desperate migrants." Boris Johnson's immigration minister came back from a much-hyped summit with his French counterparts this week, babbling about a new comprehensive joint operational plan to tackle migrants coming across the English Channel. But it is just babble. The truth is that the kind of pan-EU cooperation needed to meet the EU's migrant challenge is further away than ever as Britain prepares to exit the EU once and for all. The current hysteria about the number of migrants crossing the Channel in rubber dinghies is not just distasteful, but ultimately pointless. Yeah, there's absolutely no need for hysteria. The government should just be sending them straight back, no questions asked. There's no need for hysteria. It doesn't even matter how many that come then, if the government is actually sending them all back, which we know they're not. But she probably is right about the babbling about this new comprehensive joint operational plan that we know will lead to absolutely nothing. So at least Diane Abbott is correct on one thing there, but the pan-European cooperation is not needed because obviously the EU won't do what is required. If the EU actually did its job, this situation would never be occurring because they wouldn't be crossing the entirety of Europe to get to the UK. The migrants are depicted by Tory MPs as some kind of invading army. The Channel crossings are presented as the Normandy landings, but in reverse. No, they are really not. They got fuck all to do with the Normandy landings, which were obviously trying to retake Europe. These fuckers, by the looks of it, have already taken Europe and trying to come over here and take the UK now, which is why the government needs to start getting hard ass and stopping it from happening. These bedraggled migrants, who include women, pregnant women and children, are being systematically dehumanised whilst important facts about the situation are ignored. No, they are not being dehumanised. We are calling them humans because we are calling them criminals or boat wankers, as I've been saying. Being a criminal requires you to be human, you complete and utter fucking idiot. No one is dehumanising them. They are just saying they are not welcome here, they have no right to be here, and they're breaking the law to get here, which means they should automatically be instantly deported back to the country where they're from or where they came from, in this case France. First of all, these are people, not flotsam and jetsam floating on the waters of the English Channel. I have visited the refugee camps in northern France, Lesbos in Greece and Lebanon. You cannot stress enough how desperate these migrants are, but they have human rights. And once they reach British waters, they are absolutely British responsibility, which is exactly why we need to stop them from getting here. At the end of the day, they are not our problem. As soon as they pass into Europe, they should be a European country's problem, not able to just freely walk through and head for France. So, at the end of the day, they can all end up here, which is what they're trying to do. Why do you think they're all sitting in northern France? These migrants have not sprung out of the ground in northern France, they have crossed Europe from the Middle East and North Africa, which literally proves them to be economic migrants and goes against what Diane Abbott is saying here. Just because they've travelled from the Middle East or North Africa does not mean they are welcome here or have a right to be here. Just because we have an half-decent country and their country might be a shit show does not give them the right to come here, because at the end of the day, too many people arriving here will make it more of a shit show than it already is. So I really don't know where she's got these migrants have not sprung out of the ground in northern France. No one is saying they have. The fact that they have crossed all of Europe to get to northern France to come come here is exactly why they have absolutely zero right to be here, end of story. These waves of migrants are a Europe-wide responsibility, and the solution will involve Europe as a whole. Yeah, it will involve Europe as a whole saying no, get the fuck out. But obviously, we know the woke Europeans are not going to do that. Maybe one day they will, but I certainly wouldn't hold your breath on it, that is for sure. What seems to be happening currently is that too many EU countries are virtually waving migrants across the border to the next country because they don't want the migrants actually settling in their own country, which is something we have been saying and is kind of obvious to anyone. But we all know that Diane Abbott absolutely supports that open borders policy at the end of the day and wants them all to come here, so they will vote for Labour. They know they ain't getting elected without it, that is for sure. Every EU country should step up their responsibility to asylum seekers. No, they shouldn't. They should tell them no, because these are not asylum seekers. They are all economic migrants at the end of the day. She continued, or at the very least, they should contribute to a central fund to support EU countries bearing the brunt. No, the EU countries should just send them all back home. At the end of the day, they are not refugees. They are economic migrants looking for a better place to live. If they were properly resourced and properly thought through Europe-wide strategy, there would not be the numbers of migrants gathering in northern France that we currently see. No, they would already be here, and she would be happily in government, that is for sure. Instead of talking about greater European cooperation, too many British politicians are making the Channel crossing issue to be some kind of Franco-British war. No, we're not. We just expect France to do what it's supposed to do, especially when we pay them £100 million to do it. At the end of the day, it is the French coastline these people are leaving, and as soon as they do, that makes them a criminal, so France should be arresting these people as soon as they find them in the Channel, not escorting them over here. She continued, the idea of sending the Royal Navy is both foolish and dangerous. As an anonymous Ministry of Defence spokesman said, yeah, because that's really believable. We know about these anonymous sources and how likely they are to not even exist. Much like the Dominic Cummings bullshit that we saw up north earlier in the year. It is beyond absurd to think that we should be deploying multi-million pound ships and elite soldiers to deal with desperate people barely staying afloat on rubber dinghies in the Channel. These economic migrants are not desperate, they're all wearing designer gear and carrying expensive smartphones, so please don't give me that bullshit. As soon as you see them land on the beach, they're on the phone using their iPhone or Samsung Galaxy phone to phone home and tell them we made it safe, why don't you come and join us? The danger is that big naval ships are used to turn around rubber dinghies with the inevitability that one will capsize and people will die. Well, they are not our responsibility. If they want to take the risk on their life, that's not our government's job to stop them from doing it. They only have to stop them from entering the UK. That is what we expect of them. Worse, British politicians are wailing about the migrants as if these desperate people are themselves the problem. Unsurprisingly, Nigel Farage claims that all migrants are a security risk and possible ISIS supporters, which obviously they could well be. Now, not all of them likely are, but I would like to bet that a fair proportion of them are going to be. The real problem is the people smugglers. When I visited the refugee camps in Greece, I saw a similar situation to Dover and Calais. You can stand on the shoreline in Turkey and see the coast of the Greek islands like Lesbos. This incentivises the people smugglers, as does the piss-poor MPs like yourself who are promoting the idea of bringing these people over here. The smugglers are literally sitting there saying, at the end of the day, the UK government is weak and most of the opposition parties will sit there calling for you to just be allowed in, so when you go over there, you'll have law firms defending you in court, stopping you from being deported, and you will get all this money, 4-star hotels, and the rest of it, as we already know. The smugglers charge people ridiculous sums of money. We're not going to bother reading that. At the end of the day, I think Diane Abbott is as bad as these smugglers by calling on the things that she does and wanting them to all come over here. And the rest of the article is just a complete load of bollocks. There's no point in going through it. She's just rehashing what she's already said. So as per usual, Diane Abbott is contradicting herself, going against what the British people want and coming out with an absolute load of bollocks that is not found in any evidence. Then again, when has facts or evidence ever mattered to the Labour Party or any of these left-wing shitweasels? I'm pretty sure it never has. But her comment about these migrants coming out of the ground is just ridiculous and contradicts what she said, proving, as we've all said many times before, these are economic migrants, not asylum seekers or refugees. As a matter of fact, they're about as much as a refugee as we would be if we moved to France or Spain.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.